Does the word adaptation wake any memories and associations? Maybe some old nostalgic game you couldn't beat but still play it because it's based on a favorite movie. Or a book you loved with all of your heart but it was completely destroyed as soon as it got to the screens. In our podcast, we are exploring pieces of media with multiple adaptations. How do they work, if they ever do? Were they good or at least acceptable to watch or ended up to become a disaster? And how did the public react to them? Some of them became kind of iconic through years. But what makes them truly iconic? Any specific type of media, like movie or book, that's stuck in people's minds? The community and their support prolonging the lifespan of the story? Or everything together, forming a unique, unforgettable universe that stays in the hearts? Well, welcome to the Multifaced Realms, a place where stories transform to something greater, or to a complete catastrophe, you never know, and lead to drama either way.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Multifaced Realms. And here we discuss different adaptations and everything related to them. And we have three hosts. My name is Lina, and my job here is to tell you a little bit more about roots and origins of the famous stories.
And my name is Teresa. My personal interest in this podcast is about every adaptation there is. So like from the original stories to the movies or like to the games. Yeah.
And my name is Sophie, and I'm here to tell you about the public opinion, how people reacted to the adaptations compared to the original, and if there was any drama or scandal worth your attention.
So, today we are going to talk about The Witcher, iconic series gone from Andrzej Sapkowski books to movies, TV series, and iconic video games. We will talk about what makes The Witcher special, which versions succeeded and which ones not so much. So let's break it down. And I want to start with the original story, which was the books by Andrzej Sapkowski. The Witcher is the story of Geralt of Rivia. A Witcher himself is a mutant, which was created to fight monsters. He travels the world, fulfilling orders, but as time goes on, he becomes increasingly embroiled in political stuff and different destined events. So Geralt and his friends, for example, sorceress Jennifer or like Bard Buttercup, they protect the princess. And the main motives of this story are moral choices. Through all of the types of adaptation you will see different moral questions about fate, about politics, sacrifices, and etc. And the question who is the real monster or human runs through whole the series. So, as a result, we have several versions of this story. We have the original, the book, which has been the basis for several movies, and Netflix series and games, obviously. These are the media we will focus our attention on today, but it is also worth mentioning that there are some other versions, for example, animations or even comics. The most popular at the moment are the games probably and Netflix series, but also many people still appreciate the books. Today we would like to talk about the main differences between different media. So, the origins. The story lies in Andrzej Sapkowski books. In 1986, he wrote the story for the contest in Fantastyka magazine, a Polish magazine. Although it didn't win the first place, readers still loved it, and that's when Geralt was born, a Witcher whose fate turned out to be linked to Ciri and political affairs. The first story about Geralt appeared in 1986, when, after that, author wrote a whole series of novels, and the books emphasize deep philosophical reflection and moral dilemmas, also political intrigues, and complex multi-layered characters. So, the main point that I can figure here out is that, first of all, the Geralt himself in the book is very intelligent and philosophical character who tries to avoid political conflicts but inevitably gets drawn into them with the story. Ciri's story is the centerpiece of the saga, and her growing up and becoming a person plays a key role. Also, it's worth mentioning that Sapkowski was inspired by Slavic mythology, but he was also influenced by other writers, for example, Tolkien or Moorcock. Also, as I already mentioned, language of the books is really complex. A lot of archaisms, folk expressions, sarcasm. So when you read the book, you delve into the atmosphere, which is really dark and realistic. And one of the main point of the books that I think personally that hooked most book fans is the philosophical aspect of the books, because Geralt, again, is a very philosophical character there, and he always ponders whether a monster is worse than humans and vice versa, and makes some really hard choices. But then they tried to transfer it to movies and something went wrong.
Now we're moving on to the Polish movie and TV series, which is released in 2001. And let's just say that fans weren't really thrilled. The major problems are small budget, which makes weak special effects, so it kind of looked bad, a simplified plot, and underdeveloped characters in compared to books. Yeah, that's basically what happened here. And the movie itself has a linear narration of the story. In general, it's quite close to the original one, but the plot was simplified, and because of the low budget graphics and special effects were weak, and the character were also not revealed. And in this version, Geralt is more brutal, more straightforward, and makes him, in people's eyes, just more cool. But at the same time, also the depth that is being depicted in the books has disappeared. And that's one of the main problems because of simplification. So the books are full of complex characters and politics, and the movie was more like a cheap fantasy. And then a Polish TV series came out as well, but it also suffered from the same problem. But still, it's the first attempt at a screen adaptation, so it has its own nostalgic value. So, since we're already talking about the screen adaptation, we should go straight to Netflix, which released the first season of The Witcher in the 19th year. Initially, it was close to the books, but over the time the show began to change from the original plot. They allow themselves a rather frivolous narration of the story. The narration in the series is quite chaotic. There are major changes. Important storylines have been removed, some characters are changed or removed, and Geralt has become less philosophical and more active. Also, the political intrigue is increased. It is quite possible that The Witcher was tried to be made as a second Game of Thrones, so to say. Overall, this version is also a bit simplistic. The focus is more on the action, and there's a lot of divergence from the books, especially in the second season. In general, the style of the series itself is not so dark and heavy in compared with the books. Separately, it is worth mentioning that the animated movie Nightmare of the Wolf about Vesemir, it is more dynamic and dramatic, but in general better received by fans than the main series.
So, let's go to the games. It's probably the game that made this story incredibly popular around the world. It was made by a small company that wasn't particularly successful. The Witcher was the first big project for this company. They bought out the copyrights for some kind of conditional price, because Andrzej Sapkowski was convinced that the games wouldn't be successful. He was content to be rather skeptical of the games, although history has shown the opposite of what happened. CD Projekt Red took Sapkowski's universe and made a legendary RPG series based on it. So we have 3 games. The Witcher First in 2007, it was the first attempt, plot-wise close to the book, but with kinda outdated gameplay. The second game was released on 2011. It was more cinematic and more political intrigue. And the last Witcher was in 2015, The Witcher III Wild Hunt, a masterpiece that won millions of fans. Although some characters received other fates in general, the world of The Witcher is conveyed as authentically as possible. The game has an open world with variation of decisions. The character Geralt acts more actively, but this one is quite logical, as it is assumed that the player himself controls the character. Each decision affects the development of the plot, which also naturally implies the differences from the plot of original story. In game you can change the fate of characters, in book everything is predetermined. Also, the fate of some characters has changed for the sake of the game's plot. CDPR managed to adapt the complex themes of the books into a game format, which made the series popular all over the world. So, as a result, we have three main different stories that focus on different things. So, which is better? The books are deep philosophical story and well-developed world and characters. The Polish adaptations kind of failed attempt, but with nostalgic value, especially for Polish culture. Netflix attracted a new audience, but alienated book fans. And the games, probably best adaptation, combining interactivity with the spirit of the original. So we now can discuss public opinions.
Yeah. Basically, people were mostly satisfied with the games, and I want to talk about the games because I said it was maybe the best adaptation that exists in our universe. Maybe in some alternative universe there is something better, and maybe the Polish movie is the best one, but no, we live in our reality. So we have the games as the best adaptation. They were greeted pretty warmly by the community, excluding maybe some gameplay issues in the first two parts, because players mostly remembered the second Witcher, the fighting style of second Witcher, as a really woody and very hard to master. But the Wild Hunt is still a masterpiece that won several rewards and several festivals and is presented as a good constanta in the gaming world for the quality of the RPG and for the quality of the quests, especially side quests. Because I think almost everyone will recognize the quest from the Blood and Wine, I think the DLC is called. The quest about the Bloody Baron with several moral choices that influence the story really much. Also, the games were pretty satisfied that the story ended after Wild Hunt, because Geralt and Ciri basically decimated all the monsters from the world. That's why when on the Game Awards 2024 there was a trailer of The Witcher 4, the internet split into. The first half of the internet wasn't satisfied with the main character choice, because surprise, surprise, the Ciri is the main character now. And people had many problems with it, because, quote-unquote, Ciri isn't worthy to be a good main character. I don't want to associate myself with a woman. Oh my god, she is a woman. What a nonsense. What a shocker, right? The other part of the community had more problems with the story part, because who is Ciri haunting? Who is her target while she's hunting? And also, how did she become a witcher? Because to become a witcher, the person should have some kind of test as a child and survive this test. They have to survive the mutations. And if they survive the mutations, not a single woman survived this test as a child. So Ciri is the first one, but okay, we can give them benefit of the doubt. But the witchers can't use magic. So then Ciri can't use her original old magic that is the main part of her character kit.
After, I think, third or the fourth book, the main action start to revolve also more around the Ciri herself, and she was and Geralt was, they were divided. And the story was focusing on Ciri. And I also remember that I was reading it like, I'm interested in where is the Geralt, because he was like in a desert or something. I was like, what's happening? Why is Ciri? I don't care about her right now. So for me, it's also funny that in the game they also kind of changed perspective to the Ciri. But as far as I remember in the books, maybe my memory wrong. I'm not sure, because it was like maybe 7 years ago or 8 years ago when I read the books. She is a destined girl, and I think she was kind of trained also by Witchers. That's why it's not that big surprise for her to become a Witcher herself. Maybe she is not a mutant, obviously, but I actually can see where it comes from.
I also can see where it comes from, but the thing is that people have this problem. If the Ciri is portrayed as a full-grown Witcher, you mean like mutated Witcher, how did she even survive these mutations, and how is she able to use her magic if she has already like mutated? So the fans had problems with that specifically. And also, CD Projekt Red was a part of a grand scandal even before the trailer of Witcher 4. Maybe you've heard of that, but as it was said, Sapkowski sold the rights to the company with less enjoyment as it could be expected, because CD Projekt Red didn't have any major projects before the first Witcher. They were mostly doing like some small jobs in other companies, in other smaller games, but the first Witcher was their first fully made from the scratch game. And when Sapkowski saw that the game is now successful and really beloved, and many people come to his books after playing the game, he decided to start a scandal. This man, I will try to be polite and tolerant, this man said that basically CD Projekt Red robbed him with the royalty that they could pay him but didn't pay. And the internet split in two camps. One of them was for CD Projekt Red, and spoiler, they won, because CD Projekt Red had all the documents, all the contracts, everything was written there, and they could just legally prove that they were in the right, that Sapkowski wasn't the one in the good position here. But the other camp was also defending Sapkowski, saying that yeah, he has like some difficult life situation, and like, his son needs money for illness, like for medical reasons or something like that, and that he has all the rights to ask for this royalty. As far as I know, CD Projekt Red rewrote the contract and paid him the royalty.
I think we all can understand both sides if you know the whole backstory under Andrzej Sapkowski's situation about his son, which is unfortunately died. But the main problem is only that Andrzej Sapkowski himself, a little bit scandalous person. He can't just go and be like, I never expected your games to be such successful thing in the world. Maybe we can it's my story. Maybe we can redo the contract.
Maybe we can
He
talk.
just started to make a drama.
He just started to make a drama, but actually this drama was really worth observing.
Yeah, true, kind of true.
And what's interesting, this drama didn't harm the reputation of CD Projekt Red. Cyberpunk made everything for them. And if we're talking about the reaction to the screen adaptations, and mostly the Witcher series, people had so many problems with how the characters look, because we can't deny that all the characters in the series look so chic. Like, it's a Slavic medieval era. How are they so...
How is Henry Cavill out there? How it's happened? Slavic man doesn't look like that. I know that. I'm sorry. It's a joke.
Like, how do they have all that makeup that stays through all the battles? Like, that I can imagine how there is makeup for, I don't know, like dances or some events happening, because you have to dress up and maybe put some makeup on your face and get your hair done. But how is it all the same when you are in the battle with the monster? How is there like perfectly made face?
Well, I think it depends, because if we talk about, for example, Jennifer or Yennefer, depends on the language, but she's a witch.
She's a witch.
She can do it. She has her magic tricks, but obviously when it's like
Ciri.
Henry Cavill again, or Ciri. But with Ciri, I think the problem is not even in makeup. As my mom said, the problem is that in first season you can see a girl who is really a princess. She's underaged. She's like in early teenage years. Yes, she's beautiful because she's a princess and blah blah blah, but I don't know, maybe it was second or the third season, suddenly she has, I don't know, her lips done, her eyelashes done, everything is done, which is fine in 21st century. But when you are playing in this series and in the first season you don't have it, and suddenly your face changed to all full glam out, It's personally weird. Heard a lot of kind of like, why? You just like wait till your contract ends and do with your face what you want. But on the screen, we want to see more authentic, and it's like kind of, dissonance when in the first season you see this and suddenly she all this
like different.
Yeah, Instagram girl, but in Witcher world,
It's
Instagram girl vibes. Yeah, but hardcore fans weren't really happy with how the series turned out, and they still think that The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is the best piece of media in this specific universe.
Yeah, so in the end we have different opinions and different versions, and that's it for today. Thank you for listening to us. I want to ask you, which version of The Witcher is closer to you personally? You can let us know, maybe in the comments. Thanks once again, subscribe, and we will hear from you in the next issue.